Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another Google Sheets API in Python's tutorial series. My name is Jay. In this video, I'll be covering how to create a chart using the Google Sheets API. Alright, so here's my source data. If we look at the table real quick, so this table has 4 columns. Sales north, east, west, and south. And these 4 columns contains the numbers that I want to graph in our chart. And column A is my product list. Here I have a list of products such as headphone, tablet, iPad, and so on. And I'll show you 4 examples. So for the first example, we'll start from something very basic. We'll create a very simple bar chart using sales north data. And for example number 2, I'll show you how to add a chart to an existing worksheet. And example number 3, we'll group all the data together and put it into a single chart. So if we look at this column chart, for each product, here we can see the number for each region. And based on this visualization, we can see that Samsung Galaxy S10 has the best sales for each region. And for example number 4, we'll graph a horizontal bar chart, as well as grouping all the regions together. Before we dive into the tutorial, I want to show you which object we'll be using. From the batch update method requests object, if we go into the requests object, we'll be using this object called add chart object. Within the add chart object, we'll be creating areas of add chart request objects. And within the chart object, if we navigate to the embedded charts, and here are the properties that we need to provide. The chart ID property is optional in case if you need to go back to your existing chart and to make some changes. If you are creating a brand new chart, then we'll use the spec property as well as the position property. And you can also use the chart spec object to customize your chart. Since it is going to be a tutorial series aiming for beginners, I'm going to create a separate video to show you how to use the chart spec object. But for now, I'm going to stick with the basic, which is just purely using the embedded charts object to create a chart. Right, so that's out of the way. Now let's go back to our Python editor. And here's my source data. So here's my code template. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a new worksheet. Let's call this worksheet embedded chart. I'm going to grab the worksheet ID, which is the GID at the end. I'm going to create a variable to store the value. So I'll name this variable sheet ID. For the first example, which is example number 1, this is going to be a single bar chart. And here I'm going to create my request body object. Inside the request body, we need to provide the requests. And it's going to be a list. So for our first item, which is this blue curly bracket group, I want to insert the add chart property. And inside that, I'm going to insert the chart property and spec. Now let's go back to the documentation. And if I go into this chart spec object, or property, sorry. And here's a list of things that we can provide. So there are actually quite many if you look at it. So it's a pretty big list. And here's a list of chart types. So we can insert basic chart, pie chart, bubble chart, and so on. And I'll be using the basic chart to create my column chart. So here I'm going to give my chart a title, and I'm going to name the title Regional Sales Summary. I want to specify what type of chart I want to create, and I want to create a basic chart. Oops. And for the chart type, so let's go into the basic chart spec property. we need to navigate to the basic chart type. And here's a list of chart types that the basic chart type property supports. So we can insert bar chart, line chart, area, column, scatter, combo chart. And this one I'll cover the combo chart in a separate video. And since I'm creating a column chart, so I'm going to insert my chart type as column. Next, I want to provide my legend position. And for the legend position, so let's go back to legend. And here's a list of values that we can provide. So based on your requirements, you can insert your legend in different position. So I'm going to insert my legend at, let's do bottom legend. So I'll insert the legend at the bottom. And next we need to specify our axis. And it's going to be a list. And we're going to have x-axis and y-axis for the column chart. So I'm going to insert two dictionaries object first. And I'm going to type the property name altogether. Let me see if I can do that. Sure I can. Not mind. Okay. So I'll just manually type the property name. So the first property is position. And this one is going to be my x-axis. So it's going to be my bottom axis. X-axis. And I'll copy this. And this one is going to be y-axis. And we know the y-axis is going to be the vertical line. So it's going to be my left axis. Now we need to name our axis. So for the x-axis, it's going to be my sales region. Actually, sales regions. And for the y-axis, it's going to represent the revenue. So total revenue. Now we have provided the axis and the chart information. We need to specify where the source data is coming from. And to do that, so we need to use the series property. And it's going to be a list. Inside the series list, we need to insert dictionary. And inside the dictionary, we need to insert series property. And it's going to be a dictionary. Now I can specify my source range or my source data. This should be a dictionary. And within the source range property, and here I have a typo, I can specify my sources. Alright, so inside the sources list, and we want to provide the first source data information. So we need to insert range object, and the range object contains the sheet ID. So here I'll grab the sheet ID variable and the start row index. And if I go back to my source data, my source starts from row number 1, which is 0. So index starts from 0. And for the end row index, it's going to end at row index 11. And for the start column index, we know it's going to start at C. So for the data, it's going to start at column index 1. So start from column B. Column B and column 1. This should be row, not column. Row index, actually row number 1 and row number . So this one is row number 10. And for the end column index, And since we're only graphing just the first column, sales north, so I'll grab the column. So it's going to be column 1 to 2. Now within the source range, actually within the first series object or item, that should be source. We need to specify the target axis. Now let's go back to the documentation. Let's go back. Let's search for target axis right here. So if we look at the description, the target axis property is the minor axis that will specify the range of values for this series. And if we navigate to the basic chart axis position, and we have 4 different options. So we can either just not provide the value, or we can specify the position of the chart axis. I'm going to use left axis, since we are creating a simple column chart. And here I see I have an error, so this indicating that some of the item position is invalid. Let me check. Okay, I think it might be this one. So I should move these below the series property. So let me try. Alright, so this is one thing I hate about using Google Sheets API for something that is so basic, just because there are so many things involved. So I think I figured out. So if I look at my my brackets, so here I notice that here I'm missing an extra bracket. So if I fill in the end curly bracket or the closing bracket, and that seems to fix the issue. So essentially, you shouldn't have any empty closing bracket. The last property we need to insert is, let's see. So within the add chart property, we need to insert the position where we want to insert the chart. So for example, number 1, I'm going to create a new worksheet to insert the chart. So within the position property, I'm going to use the new sheet property. I'll set the value to 2. And that's it. That's the request body for example number 1. For automation purpose, I think Google Sheets API has been wonderful. It allows me to build different PyQt application, which is a GUI framework to build my own automation tool. And which I'll show you guys some samples in the future. But for now, let's create this chart. I'll be using the spreadsheet's resource or class, that batch update method. And within the batch update method, we need to provide the spreadsheet ID. And followed by the request body. So the property we'll be using is equals to request body. And I need to insert the execute reference. Alright, so that's everything. So cross my fingers, and I'm going to run it. And here I'm getting an error. So just one error. Position is unknown. So if you see an error like this, then most likely the property is located at the wrong place. So let's see. Which one is blue? Blue is spec. So if we go back to the spec object, and if I search for position, okay, so it's not within the spec object. Oh, right here. Okay, so it's within the embedded charts object. So charts, this one should be pink. And here I'm missing a curly bracket. Alright, now let's try again. I'll post the source code on my website so you can use this script as your template, so that way it's easier for you to create different charts. Alright, so let me run the script. Alright, so this time I'm not getting any error, and it should be printing a message, charts created successfully. Now if I go back to my Google Sheet, and I can see a new worksheet has been created, and no data, what's going on here? So I see the worksheet has been created, and right, let's see. So sheet ID. So let me delete this worksheet. Oh, okay. So I used the round sheet ID. So it should be 2761. Now let's try again. So I just delete the worksheet. So if I run it again, and here I get a message, chart created successfully. If I go to chart 21, and here's my column chart for sales north region. And here's my chart title, my y-axis, which is total revenue, and the x-axis, sales region. And I noticed that my labels are missing. Let me take a look. Right, so here I have series, axis. Oh, I see. So here I'm missing one more item, which is the label. And to insert the label, we need to use the domain property. Here we can specify the source data where the labels should be come from. So here let me insert nodes. So this should be chart data. And this is going to be chart labels. And within the domain property, we need to domain list, we need to insert dictionary. Inside this dictionary, we need to this should be domains plural, because we can have multiple domains. Within the first dictionary object, we need to insert the domain property. And within the domain properties, then we need to insert another dictionary. And this one's going to be source range and sources. And it's going to be a dictionary. Every time we see a property name is plural, then you know it's going to be a list. And here I need to insert my range object. So I need to provide the sheet ID, start row index. Here I'm going to just copy these 4 lines. And let me delete the comments. I know my labels start from, so it's going to be from 0 to 11. So basically the same, except that my column is going to be the first column. So it's going to be from column index 0 to 1. Now let me run the script again. And here it's saying that it cannot find which field. Oh, source range. Alright, so here's a typo. And let me delete chart 21 worksheet. Now if I run the script again, and sources type incorrect. Sources, not sources. Alright, so let me run again. Okay, so this time I'm getting the chart created successfully message. Now if I go back and go to chart 22, and this time the labels are displayed. So headphone, Samsung tablet, Apple iPad, and Samsung Galaxy S10, which generate the highest revenue. Alright, so that's example number 1. Now we're going to go to example number 2. At this point, everything will be a lot easier just because we have created the request body template that we can reuse for the next couple more examples. So here let me add just a couple more information. So this one's going to be in new worksheets, new worksheet. I'm going to code this example 1A. And next, I'm going to grab this block of code. I'll be using that as my template. And I'll comment out the entire code block. And this one's going to be example 1B. So single bar chart. But we're going to create a chart at existing worksheet. If we want to add a chart to an existing worksheet, then we need to modify the position property. And if we look at the position properties of the JSON representation, we need to provide the sheet ID where we want to insert the chart, and the overlay position, which is the rows and columns address. Essentially, you need to choose one or the other, so you cannot use both. Now let's go back. So here I need to modify the position property. Here I'm going to type overlay position, capital P. And it's going to be a dictionary. And inside the overlay position property, we need to insert a property called anchor cell. And we need to specify the sheet ID. So this time I need to grab the embedded chart worksheet ID. So I'm going to just copy the ID manually. And this one right here, so the GID. Let's say I want to insert the chart in cell B3. So they use cell, not an area. And actually, let's do B2. So my row index is going to be B2, 0, and 1. So it should be 1. And my column index is going to be 1 as well. And if we go back to the documentation, and let me close some of the tabs. If we go into overlay position property, so we have the anchor cell property, followed by some of the properties that we can use to offset the position. So we can set the width, height. Do you want to move the chart away from the anchor cell? So let's say I don't want to move the chart away from our anchor cell, which is B1. So I'll insert the offset X, so X meaning X axis pixel. I'll set the value to 0. I'll copy this. I'll copy and paste. I'll change the X to Y. And for the width and the height, so I'm going to set the values to, let's do 800 for the width. And have extra comma. And for the height, so we want to use the height pixel property. Actually, height pixels. And let's set that to 600. And that's it. Now if I run it, and here I'm getting an error. If I look at the error, so here's saying the unknown name offset X pixel, and that's an indication that I have a typo or typos. So this should be plural. Now let me try again. Right, so this time I'm getting the chart created successfully message. Now if I go back to my Google Sheets and my embedded chart, so here's the chart that we just created using example 1B script. So that's the second example. Now let me copy this code block, and we're going to go to second example, which is to create a single bar chart, except that we're going to group all the source data together, and which covers these 4 regions. So let me comment out this code block. And this one is going to be example 2. Group data together. Single chart. Again, we'll take the request body as our template. And for the position property, I'm going to change these to new sheets. So new sheet. I'll set this to 2. So if you think about it, to group multiple source data together, everything is the same except that it's the chart data that we need to modify. And we already have the, we already have the sales noise data, and we just need to include the other 3 regions data to our series property. And that's why here we have a list. And I'm going to indicating this is going to be North region. And I'll copy this dictionary. Oops. And this one's going to be East. And oh, sorry. Let me move the comments to here. For the East region data, we know the column is going to be from column. It's going to be column C, so it's going to be from 2 to 3. And again, everything stayed the same, and we just need to copy this dictionary. I'll just make a copy 2 more times. And this one's going to be West. And column C, so this one is column C. And column D. Oops. And this one's going to be South. So South region. And it's going to be from 4 to 5. And column E. Alright, so let me just take a look. Now if I run it, and if I go back to my Google Sheets, and here's my column charts, where all the data grouped together into a single chart. Now let's say instead of column charts, your boss or your manager want to see a horizontal bar graph, and we can quickly change the chart type by just modifying just couple properties. So here, let me just copy this. Let me copy my template. And this one's going to be example 3. And change graph horizontal bar chart. And let me comment out this code block. To change the chart type, we can go back to the spec property, and within the basic chart property, we need to change the chart type from column to bar. Now if I run it, and here I'm getting an error. Bar charts series may only, oh, okay, so here's one more thing I forgot to mention. Because we're graphing a horizontal bar graph, we need to change the target axis from left to bottom. Now if I run again, if I go to my Google Sheets, and if I look at chart 24 worksheet, and here's my horizontal bar graph. So this is everything I'm going to cover in this lesson. In the next video, I'll be covering how to use Google Sheets API to apply conditional formatting.